Welcome to the Alia Graphic Podcast. Today we have a really exciting creator chat with one of my favorite comic creators in Australia. I'm Jorge Rutia and I'm the convener for the Alia Graphic Novels and Comics group. This wonderful group of volunteers who love comics and libraries. Before we get started with our special guest, as a national group based across the land we call Australia, we would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of this land and acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. This was and always will be Aboriginal land, and I personally would like to specifically acknowledge the Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation as the custodians of the land from where I'm speaking, and I pay respect to the elders past and present of all First Nation people across the land. Now, our guest today is Chris Gooch, who's recently published his third graphic novel with Top Shelf and one anthology that he had as well.
Yeah.
And since he really needs no introduction, I'll stop right there. Welcome back to the podcast, Chris. How are you going?
Yeah, good. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah. All right. So obviously your partnership continues with Top Shelf.
Yeah. This is the fourth book? Yeah, you're right. 3 graphic novels and a short story collection. This one's going to be bigger than the others. Like it's going to be like American comic book sized printing format, which I'm excited for. But otherwise, yeah, similar stuff.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's actually interesting. So
Yeah, I wanted because it's more genre-y and a bit tighter and well, it's a similar length to some of them, but it I don't know. I really wanted to try and do sort of something a bit more like mainstream American comics, just to try and have fun with that. I don't know, dipping my toes into that and experimenting with that. So I used the standard page dimensions, and the book's going to be printed at about that size. I think it's either a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, but about that, American size.
that's awesome because well, obviously I've already read it, but I read a digital version of it, so I didn't know the size. That's really cool. I look forward to seeing it as well. Yeah, excellent. So we'll obviously talk about in Utero, but I want to talk a little bit first about one of the things that you do a lot actually in the internet, and I really love in your social media, is that you share a lot of your process.
Yeah, I like don't like doing the social media stuff very much, as I'm sure most people do. And the thing that I most enjoy is, posting things as I go. That's what I like seeing from other artists and what I want to post myself. So by doing that, I make it a bit easier and try and motivate myself. But I like to post pages that are halfway done or in the middle, and show the progression of them coming to fruition. And then I haven't done it so much recently, but I do really love posting like 7, because I always make like 7 or 12 different versions that are almost indistinguishable, and they just have one tiny change that doesn't matter to anybody else. But I get stuck on like picking between them.
Yep.
So I'll post like that and be like, hey, which one works? And sometimes I like follow what people say, but most of the time it's that thing where like as soon as someone says like, oh, it's that one, you immediately know, no, it's number 3. Like that's like you just need that like push to like have that gut feeling of like, oh no, it was the one that I thought it was the whole time, but I wasn't confident.
Well, it's pretty impressive that you do like all these different versions of all these things, and you get stuck with those things, but you still finish things.
Yeah, that's because I ran out of patience and say like, this is good enough. Like, there's that point where you're really into it and you're like, oh, especially digital, because I'm using the iPad now, like you make like 5 different files. Like I just duplicate the file and then I'll like change a little bit here. And then after a while, I'll be like, I can't do this anymore. I'll delete, all except one, and then like move on. Because otherwise, I just never get anything done.
Yeah, because that's one of the things that Tolkien was famous for. He would rewrite and rewrite things because he was never completely happy with his writing. And he would rewrite and rewrite. And that's why, he didn't publish very much in life because he was constantly rewriting things, and he got
Yeah.
lost in that.
Yeah. I mean, genius is a big word, but yeah, it's hard not to think of him as a genius, or at least like just amazing. But
Yeah.
yeah, I have the exact opposite approach in my work. I just like, he spent how long was Lord of the Rings? It was like 20 years or something. All this like world building and something, this big gap between The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
working on this masterpiece. And I just would rather put out four or five things that are not as
Yeah.
good as the one thing I would have done in that 10-year period. Um, just because I don't know, it's better to have more stuff out in some ways, I think. Like I just want
Yeah.
to make
Yeah.
I don't want to get stuck in my room just working on that one thing that might not ever get finished.
Yeah. I mean, I love the Lord of the Rings, but yeah, you're right. It took him, I think it was 13 years.
Oh
13.
wow, yeah.
But my favorite book from Tolkien is The Silmarillion, and that's actually what he started writing first when he was
Right, yeah.
actually in the trenches of World War One. And he died, and he was still in the last few months of his life, he was starting to rewrite it. So there you go.
Yeah.
Crazy man. Now, from memory, you used to draw everything with pencil and paper, and
Yeah,
then
my
you used to
last
digitize and
yeah.
and then do your final work digitally. Is that still your process?
No, everything's well, I'll thumbnail on printer paper just because it's like faster and easier and I want to be able to spread the pages out in front of me. But I have gone full digital with the iPad just because I don't know, just moving a bunch and it was just like packing up boxes and boxes of stuff. I
Mm.
needed the convenience and the technology had hit a point where um, the artwork I was making in Utero, like by the time I digitized it and got it to look the way I wanted it to look, like that was I could replicate that with the iPad with the brushes I was using, and then with Under Earth I was like layering halftones, like digital halftones, and then color on top of it. So
Mm.
yeah, I think hopefully there's no discernible difference. And
I actually have this. I
yes,
recognize.
yeah. So like for that one, that's a good example because like I would go in and digitally fill like all the X's of the other like black fills. So I'd go and do that. And then yeah, I think if I drew that on the iPad, it probably wouldn't look that different. Um, but
I've got this always here on display in the office.
like
Just so you know.
mm. It's nice also just sitting on the couch, like being able to sit there and like zone out and do it as opposed to having like the big drawing desk. And
Yeah.
although I'm sure it's horrible for my posture, but the iPad is nice like that.
Yeah. So you do everything on the iPad? Is it on Procreate?
Yeah, Procreate, and then for In Utero, I prepped all the files in Photoshop, so I would do all the frames in Photoshop, do the text, send it to Procreate, and then color it and halftone it in Procreate, and then send it back for um, lettering in Photoshop. But I'm trying to ditch Adobe, so I've done a short story just over the holidays for myself
Yeah.
and I'm trying to use Clip Studio Paint, which is like a good program, but God, these things are annoying to learn. Like Photoshop was so annoying to learn all the shortcuts
Yeah.
and now I'm starting again with Clip Studio, but at least it's not $40 a
Yeah.
month. And also
See,
Adobe's horrible with the AI stuff.
yeah, my son's 12 and he's starting to
Mm.
make some comics. Um, he loves comics and drawing in general, and he's starting to make some comics. And he's doing everything with pencil, and then has to ink it and things like that. But we've got an iPad at home, and I got Procreate for him, and he's starting to play a little bit with it. But Yeah, you're right. Like learning all the tricks and all the workflows and all that. Yeah, um,
Mm.
takes
There's a
time.
big, yeah, I think there's a big trap with digital, like I'm doing this because that's the pinch and zoom or whatever on Procreate, or even if using a Cintiq, where, you can go in and you end up getting stuck, like redrawing this hand, this tiny little part, like, whereas pen and paper, like you can't zoom in, you can't erase over and over again, you'll destroy the paper. Like
Yeah,
I'm very grateful and glad that I learned with pen and paper. Like that would be my favorite way. It forces you to do the thing and move on before you destroy the paper by erasing it too much.
good advice. Good
Yeah.
one. Now, you started making zines actually, and your first graphic novel was published by Top Shelf, great international publisher. You just published your third graphic novel with them. Now, I've been saying for a long time, Chris Gooch, young emerging creator, but I think I should stop saying that. Like,
Oh yeah, I'm getting old. Yeah.
you're now a seasoned creator, Um, uh, what advice do you have for young creators? Well, you just given us one, but what advice do you have for young creators who starting, who are making their own little mini comics and zines and, you know?
Definitely for anybody in Australia, I'd say like make stuff, self-publish it, go to the zine fairs. Most major cities have something. And if not, trade with friends, post online. Um, yeah, make stuff small, make stuff crappy. Like I'd just be repeating, the advice that's been important to me when I started making stuff, but like you're never gonna make the sci-fi epic that's in your head when you're like just starting. Like that's
Hmm.
yeah, if you go straight to that, you'll never finish it. And maybe like I did that and I never got more than 3 pages in or whatever. It's just you do something short and crappy and then you build and you build and you build. By the time you get to, well, my experience was by the time I got to wanting to do a longer piece, I look back and think about that sci-fi epic or that masterpiece you had in your head and you'd be like, wow, that's crap. I'm glad I didn't do 10 years of that.
Yeah.
And then I mean there's a whole other world of like webtoons and stuff that I am totally out of sync with. But
Yep.
that stuff's popular. Like,
And you
um,
have an international readership as well.
yeah, oh God, I'm blanking on the name, but there's an Australian duo who are doing one on Webtoon that looks really cool that I've read a little bit of.
Hmm.
Maybe cut that. If I can't remember the name, there's no point saying it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yes.
definitely don't be a traditionalist and don't shy away from these new mediums or anything just because like they're not what you grew up reading. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I actually made that mistake as well because I kind of, when I was young and started kind of making some comics, I hate my drawings, by the way. I've never been very good, but they're very cartoonish. And I made the mistake of having this idea for a huge story that was a parody of Superman mixed a little bit with a kind of anti-hero kind of thing. And it was going to be Super Gorman. And
Yeah.
so it's a superhero who wants to be a hero and wants to be loved by people and do the right thing, but who always thinks that, superheroes should just crush the enemy and gore them and gets lost in the fights and, gores them. And then because of that, people hate him. Um, and then he has to essentially go in this journey to learn how to be actually a hero. And it was very humorous, very kind of actually a little bit like Akira Toriyama gag manga kind of thing as well,
Okay.
but mixed with superhero stuff. But yeah, I had like this huge story, and you're right. I just made the first few pages, and then it was like, this is too big. I don't know how to continue this. Yeah, and now actually my son has started drawing a little bit of Supergirl, man. So That will be
Oh, that's
interesting.
cool. I like that. Intergenerational.
Yeah, yeah. So we actually worked out the first chapter together, and we wrote a script,
Oh, that's awesome.
and he's drawing it. So yeah, it's fun. It's really fun. Yeah. But anyway, um, what was the origin story of In Utero? Did the story come fully formed, or did it start with just an idea, a character, an image? Because, sometimes they come fully formed, but sometimes it's just a character that interests us. And
For this one, it had a few starts and stops. Like as an idea, it started as like I was like, oh, what would I want to do if I was allowed to do like a Godzilla comic book or a movie or whatever? And I moved away from that very quickly. But like monster befriending a kid in a shopping mall was sort of like that was the start of it.
yeah,
And then I started drawing it in 2020 when I was a bit lost after in Under Earth came out. And stuck in I think I was doing call center work back then. Just like, oh, what am I going to do? Like, so I went and did an honors in creative writing,
oh, cool.
and I did that because the program was you could do a creative work alongside of a thesis. So my creative work was the first draft of In Utero, and then I wrote like a 10,000 word essay about like making it and specifically to different academic horror theories and how they contributed to it. And then I had to write an element of like what is unique about horror in comics and stuff. So that was the start of it in 2020, and that was a weird year for everybody. But yeah, I spent a lot of time just in lockdowns and inside drawing and thinking about it and writing this essay. And then as soon as I finished, I got to move on to the second draft, and it like doubled and then tripled in size. And yeah, from then I just started drawing and writing it.
That's really cool what you said about the honors. So I'm following that thread now. So, what is unique with horror in comics? I'm not,
Oh,
you know, not
well,
not 10,000 words, but in summary.
I think yeah, the disclaimer for this is like
Yeah,
for academic essays, the ones that I was writing, it's like you make the argument, but you don't necessarily believe in it. Like it's an interesting idea and you make a case for it.
yeah,
But I think I was referencing Scott McCloud's stuff, the idea that like the reader will animate and personalize their experience of the different monsters within the horror comic. Um, like I really love just that example he has in Understanding Comics of like, the axe murderer, like one panel of the axe murderer and they're like going to attack. And the next one is like a cutaway and it's just a scream and the idea that like um, the the image that the reader has in their head of someone getting like
mm,
chopped in the head is more engaging and thrilling and graphic than whatever you would draw in that actual panel.
yeah,
And also specifically within In Utero, so it's two monsters that are like they're of equal size because they do a fight at the end. But they are designed to like grow, change, and move very differently. So talking about like the personal relationship and the back and forth the reader has with the comic book, the idea that the essay was putting forward was partly, you know, the reader animates the way these characters move and feel and blah, blah, blah in their mind between the frames in a
mm,
way that's personal to them.
yeah.
Whether or not you think that's a lot of wank, I think I can see either way. Like,
Yeah.
but that was the argument at least.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, when I was young, I read so many horror comics. Actually, I in Spain we had I think it may have been published in the US as well, but in Spain we had a magazine called Creepy,
I
and
think, yeah, I know that
Yeah.
one.
And it was all horror comics, and they had lots of great stuff, a lot of Bernie Wrightson stuff, obviously, but lots of different creators and a lot of Spanish creators as well. And I loved that because, I could see, yes, you can see ink on paper, but then, just imagining all those different creatures and monsters, and I definitely had lots of vivid dreams about them. Love them. Yeah. I want to pick up the other thread as well that you said about monsters, and you mentioned thinking of Godzilla or things like that, and the relationship between a monster and a kid. Um, and I would like to know what are maybe some of your favorite monsters in comics and films, and in films. Um, and for example, I love Godzilla. Yes. And the recent movie was actually really good. I really loved it, the Japanese one. Um, but I have to say that the Gamera trilogy of films from the 90s, I absolutely, absolutely love. And actually, in those films, there is that kind of a similar theme as well with a young girl and her relationship with Godzilla, with Gamera, sorry, which I thought was really, really interesting as well. So I really love that trilogy. And if you haven't seen them, I highly recommend them.
I yeah, I'll have to watch those. That sounds cool.
Yeah, but
Um,
yeah, if you want to talk about, any of your favorites, maybe.
yeah, for sure. I think probably all Japanese would be my go-to. I'm not so much of a kaiju person. Like I loved Shin Godzilla, the Anno movie from
Yeah.
2016, 2015, whatever. That's
Okay.
amazing. I was not a fan of Godzilla minus one. Like
No, okay.
I really like all the Godzilla scenes in that movie are like 10 out of 10, and then everything else in between for me felt like a daytime TV movie. But uh
Uh-huh.
the fact that it's like gaining traction and is doing so well, like internationally, is great. Like I hope they make like ambitious, high quality Godzilla movies forever. Um,
Yeah.
but in terms of the monsters I love, I definitely love um, the Miyazaki stuff. So like just the way he illustrates and draws monsters. So two examples would be the Spirited Away,
Mm.
the water spirit where like when it's in the bath and it's just spitting out all that garbage is so amazing. And then the start
Yeah.
of Princess Mononoke, the infected boar with all the bits coming off.
Yeah.
But for this book, because I was like, oh, I want to do a genre thing, I was like, I'm gonna like sit down and reread and like have a look at the stuff that I want to reference and draw from specifically. And that was the original Digimon movie, um,
Oh, cool.
which the first, I think it was a pilot, basically, like a 50-minute pilot they did, and it's directed by Mamoru Hosoda, I think, and he did like Summer Wars and stuff.
Yeah.
And that it's like a weird mix of like E.T. where they find the Digimon in their bedroom and like have an E.T. relationship, and then it becomes like this Godzilla monster and has a big fight in the middle of the city. But it's just
Yeah.
most of it's just kids dicking around in the city with the monster and having fun. And then I also love Domu, the Otomo
Oh,
to
yes.
okay. Otomo graphic novel, which I think is pre-Akira, but
It
like
is. It is. It is. And it's actually my
amazing.
favorite Otomo.
Yeah, Akira, amazing, ambitious, maybe gets lost in the weeds at points. Domo is like concise. It's like, yeah, it's so good. So disturbing too. Like I really, as
Yes.
a teenager, I just like I loved it. I never felt like just like gripped and visceral repulsed and traumatized by like a safe traumatized, light
Mm.
use of the word, by reading this book that I knew I probably shouldn't be reading because I was
Yeah.
a bit young or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I had a similar experience because I think I must have been probably about 15 when I read it
It's
at
it's
my
fantastic.
public library.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah.
I think it's out of print. I hope that they're gonna. I guess they'll bring it back with the Masterworks they're doing. But that
it's out of print in English,
Yeah.
definitely, and I have the Spanish edition. I have the Spanish edition here, and yeah, it's my favorite Otomo. Yeah, and you're right. It's before Akira, and in my view, you can see some elements like he was already toying with some ideas, and you can see elements of Akira there, but it's just so much more focused, and
Yeah.
it's like a punch in the face. It's just amazing. It's so
Did,
powerful. Yeah.
did you see, I think it was a Swedish film that came out last year that was basically just like an adaptation of Domu. Um,
Really?
yeah, maybe I'll quickly find it. It was pretty good. I think it was called The Innocents or something.
I'm gonna have to follow that up.
It was
Absolutely.
like,
Okay.
yeah. Da-da-da.
Yeah.
During a bright Nordic summer, a group of children reveal their dark and mysterious powers when the adults aren't looking. Supernatural thriller. Playtime takes a dangerous turn. I mean, it's just I don't know how they got away with not paying for Domu, but like
Yeah.
they take a lot from it. And it's
Yeah. All
a good
right.
film too. Like, would recommend. Even has like all the image of like of the girl sitting on the swing.
Yeah.
Like they use that. It's yeah.
Classic. Wow. Okay. No, I really need to follow that up. Well, it's interesting that you mentioned Otomo actually because he was on in my notes as well.
Yeah, I love it.
So it seemed so obviously Otomo was a bit of a source of inspiration. So could you talk about any other influences or sources of inspiration?
Yeah, for sure. I think I
Yeah.
probably bought the 35th anniversary box set around the time I started drawing.
Yeah.
So definitely like I was like looking at the way that he draws explosions and like buildings disintegrating and stuff. And I mean, he's just kind of like the gold standard for like violence in a lot of ways. Like I just love the way that
Mm.
like volume three of Akira is just it's just an action sequence for like 300 pages. And like obviously you need other stuff to balance that out.
Yeah.
And like it's maybe volume three is my least favorite of the six, but God, he's just amazing at it. Um
Yeah.
in terms of like what I specifically took from him, I mean definitely drawing more from Domu. Um the young girl who has a like a relationship that's sort of more adult in the sense that like
Yeah.
entering into a world where there's a real risk, leaving the sort of training wheels
Mm.
behind, starting off as like a precocious child,
Mm.
and then you have to kind of test yourself. Like, if like a lot of kids feel, and I felt as a what, like a 12-year-old, that I understood the world around me and that I was more adult than maybe I was given credit for by people
Yeah.
around me, and I could navigate the adult world. But as soon as you take a step into the real adult world, you have to actually like stand for yourself. And I'm more talking about my book, but like it's scary and frightening and
Mm.
it's not a Disney movie where you like necessarily pull the sword from the stone and fight the dragon. It's like you want it to
Yeah.
be a bit like screwed up and give because my book's for a younger audience. You want to give them that sort of like, oh, I feel weird and gross and this is thrilling and I'm repulsed by this. So that's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm aiming for.
Yeah.
Um,
My
but
son's
definitely,
12 and
sorry,
he hasn't read it yet, but I think he'll get a lot out of it actually.
how old is your son?
12.
12? Yeah. There's definitely something to be said for like that sweet spot of where they're not like where it could scare them, but it's not like
Mm.
horrifying. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's different for every kid and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, look, he's into some horror stuff and things like
Yeah.
that. So yeah, and he's definitely at that stage where as you said, he feels like he's a lot more grown up than he's
Hmm.
given credit for, and he's a bit frustrated with that. And yeah, so I think he'll get quite a bit out of it. Yeah. And actually, now that you mentioned that, it's interesting because I don't know if Spielberg is someone you like or, but I found that in the comic, yeah, a lot of the adults are kind of they seem a little bit lost, like they don't really know what they're
Oh, yeah,
doing.
they're idiots. Yeah.
It seems like, where the kids have it more together,
Mm.
uh, and the perspective is very much from the kids, and that kind of reminded me a little bit of E.T., where it's like it's very much from the kids' perspective, and the kids know what's right and wrong, and they have it together, whereas the adults are absolute jerks most of the time. Yeah. So it kind of reminded me of that. Is that something that was in your head or not? Or
I think I've never actually seen more than like 10 minutes of ET on like free to air.
interesting. Yeah.
But that Digimon short is that's exactly what it is. So I'm assuming that's where it got it from. And
Yeah.
Spielberg's like, I don't know, for better or worse, completely like so influential that it filters down through a million things.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I do find his films kind of saccharine and repulsive at some points, like the ones with the kids in them. And I really like I don't want to watch stuff like that. And I really tried to
Mhm.
avoid that with this one. But
Yeah.
yeah, I my aim was to write the kids not as children are when you're looking at them as an adult, because you look at kids now and you're like, you, it's amazing you're alive. Like you run into walls and like, like simple tasks, like you spill the milk on yourself, blah, blah, blah. But like, I wanted to write children as I remembered being, which is that feeling of like, why is everybody treating me like a child? Like I'm smart, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Um, and part of that is just like kind of looking at adults and being like, you don't know what you're doing. Like,
Hmm.
which I mean, they don't. And as an adult, I definitely don't. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And but it was interesting that you made Haley and Jen roughly the same age as well. But
Yeah.
obviously Jen looks older and more mature. Um, I really like how you played with the coming of age elements as well. Um, so this was obviously very important to you, you know. Um, what was the idea around making them kind of the same age, but a little bit different and playing with that?
Um, well, in terms of Haley's character, it was definitely sort of meeting someone that like that feeling of being a child, and like,
Mm,
if you're a 12-year-old going to high school, you feel like you're entering the adult world. Um, and meeting somebody who's outside of your experience and realizing
mm,
that your experience was like lucky or sheltered or privileged or whatever. Like, so
yeah.
Haley is like, she might think she's hard done by going to the holiday program at the shopping center.
Mm,
Um, and then she meets Jen, who she immediately, not just, it's meant to not just be that she looks older, and she does. She's meant to look like a 16-year-old or 17-year-old or whatever. But senses that she's older. And the reason that for that is that like she's got to fend for herself and she's had to grow up a bit faster. Um,
yeah.
and definitely like kids are like really different. Like 12-year-olds, the maturity level between them is crazy. Like, so yeah, that's what that's meant to reflect.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that was really interesting, and that relationship, and obviously I don't want to spoil the book. I want people to read it, but you really carried that story really, really well. And it's very much, yes, there's monster, there's action, which you do really well always, but I thought I think you always balance the action with character work really, really well. And that's one of the things
Thank
that
you.
I really love about you, and your books. And that came through this time as well,
Thanks, Ben.
so I love that. Now, you've said a few times that this one is more of a genre kind of work, but to me, like, I'd say Bottled was a thriller,
Yeah.
uh, which to me is genre work. Under Earth is a dystopian science fiction
Hmm.
action drama. Yeah. And now we have a horror tinged coming of age monster story. So to me, it seems like you always kind of mix genre there, you know. Um, so could you talk about the genres that you like and what appeals to you?
Yeah. Definitely my relationship to genre is changing as I get older. Like, I think definitely your assessment of Bottle is right. But at the time I was like, oh, is this like this is going to be an art comic and like my like making these long form works has been a slow move away from that idea of like I want to be a like a Dan Clausen. Instead I want to be more of like a Jeff Lemire or Otomo or whatever. Like
Yeah,
um not that Jeff Lemire doesn't do that stuff as well, but he's like, you know, 1 foot firmly in the Swamp Thing comics that he's making and stuff like that.
yeah,
Um, in terms of genre, like thriller and psychological thriller, I'm like pretty down to watch um, most of those, regardless of quality. Horror, I do like horror. I watch a lot of it because my partner's super into it. Um,
yeah.
like she came back from the cinema and was like, you have to watch Talk to Me. And then we watched it when it came out on streaming. And I was like, this, yeah,
Awesome film.
great movie. And then maybe my favorite movie of last year was Barbarian, if you saw that. Like,
Yes.
oh, that's like that was a roller coaster. I never want to watch that movie again. But that sort of when I was a teenager, I used to watch a lot of like super intense, hyper violent Korean like horror thrillers. So like A
Yeah.
Bittersweet Life and I Saw the Devil and Old Boy and stuff. And like I just love that feeling of like just like a movie grabbing you and not letting go, and you're just having like a panic attack for like 90 minutes in the cinema. Um,
Yeah. I'm taking you somewhere that you never thought, you know, you'll go there and it's just feels dangerous.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I watched an
Yeah.
interview a while ago that was maybe just a clip on Instagram of like Samuel L. Jackson talking about like ugly things in cinema are a opportunity for the audience to experience them and dabble in them in a safe space. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't like everything I like to watch, like all the people in them. I never want to meet anybody, but like it's, you know, it's thrilling and it's fun and like
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, that's the genre stuff I'm into.
That's cool. I like all that stuff as well. So yeah, and I think what I was saying before, yeah, I think you balance really well actually having elements of those genres, but having them in a way that it's not, I don't know, like it's obviously the genre, but it does feel a bit more, you know, kind of art house film kind of thing as well, you know?
Definitely my take is like I want to do my version and like now I'm a bit older, I'm like, well, I work a day job. I can do it the way I want to. Like, you know, I'm not out there chasing like um ticket sales necessarily, or like I don't
Yeah.
have a like a marketing team that I consult. Like it's, you know, the trade-off of comics is that they're niche, but you get like a lot of freedom to do whatever you feel like. And
Yeah.
yeah, I kind of want to indulge in that.
Yeah. And as I said, you know, you balance the genre elements in the action really well with character and story development. So it could work. Well, and actually, what you were saying there, making comics is very labor intensive. It takes a lot of time. Uh, and I know you're a pretty disciplined industries creator, but are you taking a break or do you already have ideas for what's coming
Oh,
next? Or
I have pretty much completed scripts for the next two things, just because what I do
okay,
is I write the next one while I'm drawing the current one. So I don't start drawing a project until it's completely written.
yeah,
Although in Utero that got a bit blurry, but yeah, that's mostly how it works. So you know, there's like years where I'm just only doing drawing for this project because that's what's left to do for it. So I'll start writing the other one. So I have two big projects, and they're both like really long, and I quite like them, but it's like that'd be 5 years of my life easily. Like so.
Mm. Like when you say long, you mean under Earth long? Because that was quite a break.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
One of them would be two books of about 200 to 250, 300 pages each, and the other one would hopefully get it under 300. But I don't know. It's hard to,
Yeah.
you don't really know how long it's going to be, even though you've got the dialogue written, the like visuals can expand and get
Yeah.
bigger and bigger to try and suck the reader in very easily.
Yeah.
Um, but
So
yeah,
actually, coming back to with that, coming back a little bit to what we were talking about before at the start, in terms of process. So you actually write a full script with dialogue and everything, all fleshed out.
I try and alternate one method versus the other, which is like the two that I've got now, because in Utero took quite a while to draw, are both basically screenplay looking things. And
Mm.
they have the odd sort of like when it became too irritating to describe like a couple of panels or whatever, then I'd have a drawing. But mostly it reads like a screenplay. But for example, for an Utero, that was very much just like I had my diary that I would write my ideas in, and then I'd just do quick drafts of dialogue on like throwaway paper, and then I go straight to thumbnails.
Yeah.
But that way of doing it, it quickly gets out of hand page wise. So like the draft I had of Under Earth before the final draft was like an extra 150 pages. It's just like when you're just touring it, it just expands and expands and expands. Whereas, and I find writing really unpleasant. So like I think it makes me be more concise.
Yeah. So, well, so just a quick run. So, Bottled, was it a full script or was it?
Yes.
It was a full script.
Yep.
Under Earth,
Thumbnails. Straight to
thumbnails,
thumbnails. Yeah.
and that's why it expanded and expanded.
Yeah. Then
Uh, Interesting.
And then in
Interesting.
Utero, kind of a script, but because I did the honors year,
Yeah.
it kind of turned into both. Like kind of a mix of both.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. All right. Cool stuff. Well, so you already have two. That's amazing. You're gonna be very busy.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know.
Have
Yeah,
you
it's been
started
10 years.
drawing any of them or not?
No, no, I'm a little bit hesitant to start because once I start, I get very fixated, and I don't know if I can just be fixated for 5 years. Like I've, I'm older. I have to plan these large projects around my life. So I probably have to sit down and think about what the next 5 years of my life are going to look like before I
Right.
commit to doing one or both of these.
Yeah. So you haven't even decided which one first.
I'm pretty sure the shorter one out of, yeah,
Yeah.
uh, convenience and necessity and stuff.
Yeah. Excellent. And is it another genre?
Yeah, it's another prison book actually. So
Oh,
it's like a fantasy thing set sort of in a fantasy version of late 1800s to early 1900s, kind of like a, you know, First World War type of conflict changing everything. These like basically like European countries just eating each other and destroying themselves for nothing, like that sort of version. But yeah, like a fantasy version of that.
sounds cool. Looking forward to it in the next 5 years or something.
Yeah, yeah, it'll be a long time.
Now, to finish off, and I'm sorry I didn't prepare you for this one, but uh, as we always do, can you recommend two or three graphic novels that, maybe they could be related to In Utero, and or just something that you read recently that you think, yep, I really enjoyed that. please read it. Whatever you like, whatever way you want to
Sure.
take it.
So ones that are related to In Utero, Adomu. Uh, oh, I'm blanking. What's the Junji Ito one? The spirals. Um,
Uzumaki.
yeah, Uzumaki and uh, Mob Psycho. They're probably my go-to manga to read. In terms of graphic
Excellent.
novels, oh, I did a big read a while ago, but I'm blanking. I've got the Dan Class one sitting on my nightstand, but I haven't read it yet.
Yeah.
Um, I go with those three, yeah.
Excellent. Good choices. Good ones. And as I said, like Domu is my favorite Otomo, and yeah. So I love Uzumaki as well. I haven't read Mob Psycho, so maybe I should get into it.
I think maybe even the anime is better. It's like strangely like experimental and high budget. It's fantastic, but the manga's great as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for those recommendations, and thank you for joining us today.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, and everyone, please buy In Utero,
Mm.
or if you can't afford it, go to the library and read it, you know?
Another great option, yes.
Yes, and yeah, excellent graphic novel. All the best, and I hope it's really well received.